Welcome to the Paranormal Plains. We are your hosts, your ghost hosts. Leslie, from the far-off land of North Dakota, and Casey, who haunts the lands of Mummy-Sota.
Happy Halloween!
It's Halloween! To up the scare factor, in this episode, Casey will be gasping after everything I say. Ready? Today on the podcast, we have after everything I say. Today on the podcast, we have cursed statues, bleeding headstones, graveyard urban legends, and the secret to immortality. Okay, and scene. I think you'd pass out if we did the whole episode. All right, let's start in Iowa this time. We haven't been there at all yet. In Iowa, there are not one, but two graveyard angels associated with supernatural activity. They are known as the Black Angels. The first, in Council Bluffs, is the memorial of a woman named Ruth Dodge. She was a major figure in Omaha Council Bluff history, and the story actually begins just before her death when she had a series of death premonition dreams. Death premonition is its own topic. There's plenty of interesting stories you can read. For example, President Lincoln famously dreamt about his assassination. Ruth Dodge had a reoccurring dream the nights before she died of cancer. This is what she told one of her daughters. She was standing on a rocky shoreline, shrouded in mist. An ancient boat emerged from the fog. In the prow of the boat, a beautiful woman, whom Mrs. Dodge guessed was an angel, stood holding a small bowl overflowing with water. "Drink," the angel said. "I bring you both a promise and a blessing." Mrs. Dodge chose not to. Quote, "I was not ready yet for this supreme blessing. I felt unworthy, and it seemed to me it would be presumption on my part to partake of anything so wonderfully pure, so heavenly, so spiritual." The angel appeared to Mrs. Dodge a second time. Again, she chose not to drink. When the angel came on a third night, she accepted the offer. After drinking from the bowl, Mrs. Dodge felt that she had been transformed into a new and glorious spiritual being. "I drank of that wonderful water of life, and it gave me immortality." Mrs. Dodge passed away just after the dream where she drank from the bowl.
Holy cow, that's cool.
Yeah. So her daughters put up this incredible memorial in Fairview Cemetery. It's created by Daniel Chester French, who also did, the famous statue of Abraham Lincoln at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C.
Wow, they got a big name to do that then.
The angel is about 9 feet tall, wreathed in a laurel crown, and holds a water basin, just as in the dream. She stands on a boat that extends into a reflecting pool, and it's quite pretty, but not at night, however, when some locals say the statue jumps off its pedestal and flies around. Others say she shoots jets of fire from her eyes when the clock strikes midnight.
What? Okay, how is this, really beautiful, peaceful, serene, dream, and then the local story isn't the ghost of the woman comes by and, helps people who are questioning, or... No, she just shoots, fire laser beams out of her eyes. What?
I mean, that's way cooler. Come on. Some whisper of children running behind her base only to disappear forever. You didn't know the list went on, did you?
No, I didn't.
Still others recount the curse of her stare. "Look into her eyes at midnight," they say, "and you will die within 2 days."
Oh my gosh. I'm kind of angry on behalf of the people who commissioned this to be a beautiful memorial to their mom, and it's just it's totally cursed and haunted and you'll die. What? No.
Yeah, but put a pin in that, because we will kind of return to that, how some of these, in fact, most of these, why are they haunted?
Right.
Yeah. Why? Our other angel is in Iowa City and looks pretty different from angels you normally see in cemetery art. She's kind of in this slinky dress, and her wings are droopy. One of the sites I was on jokingly said, "It looks so un-angel-like because it was commissioned by a Czech Bohemian immigrant." In other words, it's not an American angel.
Oh my goodness.
No, they were joking.
Okay. So they're being sarcastic. Okay.
Yeah, yes. Science tells us that the reason these angels are black is because as a bronze statue, it oxidizes over time. But I'm going to tell you it's because it's cursed.
No!
Legend says any who kiss the angel will drop dead.
Who's kissing statues?
And an angel turns a shade blacker every Halloween to mark those that it's killed in the past year. I don't know if I'd participate in that one. It seems a bit rude, honestly. Just making out with someone's grave art.
Yeah, is this some kind of like some punk kid was just like, oh, I'm gonna like suck face with the statue. Come on, guys, watch me. And then he jaywalked later, got hit by a car, and now it's a curse. Like,
yeah, whoever started that one must have had to do some real legwork to make that stick.
This is bizarre. I'm not scared. I'm mostly just like disgusted. It's like people who lick water fountains. Like, why?
It does seem like a unsanitary legend, doesn't it?
Yes. That's how people are dying. They're swapping spit on a statue and they're...
Then it's true. She is killing people. Moving on to Michigan. A statue in Battle Creek's Oak Hill Cemetery is said to weep tears every Sunday at midnight.
Oh.
It is known locally as Crying Mary and has marks below her eyes that do in fact look like it's been worn by a stream of tears.
Interesting.
The legend ranges as to why she cries. Stories say the woman buried there committed suicide or she murdered her children and now must weep eternally through the eyes of the statue.
I'm like...
Or maybe her grocery stores out of pumpkin spice Oreos.
I feel like you can verify. I mean, how old is the... Does it say how old it is?
I don't remember the year. I definitely have her find a grave in the notes, but...
I feel like you can verify some of these things as to, like, what the person did in their life and whether or not they were wanted for, like... murdering their kids, you know?
Another pin in another topic.
Ooh, I'm good. I got my like spooky Halloween psychic awareness going on.
Yeah, this time I kind of tried to save the debunking for the end of the episode instead of immediately after I say it.
I'll try. I'll try my best.
Casey has other plans tonight. She's like, it's headlights, it's condensation. Next,
Done.
next.
Debunked.
I actually had an old memory come back of one of my first fascinations with paranormal stuff.
Yeah?
I remember being a little kid watching TV in a hotel room at night, and a show came on about this mystery of a statue of the Virgin Mary, I think it was in Mexico, that would cry milk.
Ew.
My mind was absolutely blown. Like, if you had seen me in that moment, you would have been like, this girl's gonna have a paranormal podcast when she grows up. And at the end, they explained it was probably condensation. Ugh, science.
Yeah, buzzkill.
Something a little different, also in Michigan, is a monument called the Witch's Chair in the historic Brookside Cemetery. It is, in fact, a granite chair that says Stacy across the back. It's actually a last name and marks the grave of the wealthy Stacy family. When the father passed away, the widow visited his graveside and sat in the granite chair every day for 17 years. The legend says that if you sit in the chair, you will die shortly afterward.
What kind of like power move is that? Where it's like your memorial is a chair and then you go sit in it, just be like, who's alive now? Like, or maybe it was
putting
sweet.
Up this chair.
Maybe it was sweet and wholesome and they were spending time together. I don't know, but I kind of see that as it's kind of a power move.
It really is a bold dare, isn't it? I'm gonna build this chair,
Yeah.
and if anyone dares sit in it, there's gonna be hell to pay.
Yeah, I want that as my memorial. The spookiest, most mundane object. The haunted toaster.
It's like you set up a whole volleyball net stone memorial, and if anyone dares play volleyball on that site,
they will die 3 hours later.
Within 2 days.
Oh, I want a thing that's extremely climbable. Like, I want a statue that's super easy to climb on, because then the kids can't help but climb on it, and then they're all gonna be cursed.
So just put it out there. Do like a full stone playground set that no one's allowed to use.
It'll be cursed because all the kids falling off of it and like breaking their heads open.
See, that'll be a great one, because if children do die on it, it'd be like, the curse.
Self-perpetuating curse.
Self-perpetuating curse. A constant curse machine. Perpetual curse machine.
Yes.
So the witch part of our story, in the witch chair, comes from rumors started about one of their children, the daughter Loanna. She never married and was known as the town spinster, eventually becoming labeled as a witch. Honestly, like 75% of our friends would be the town witch if we were still in olden times.
Right. Yeah. We would be a coven straight up.
Loanna outlived her parents and her siblings, which also was not in her favor. The residents began blaming illnesses and death of farm animals on her. The Stacy mansion still stands, and Loanna's ghost has been seen floating through the halls.
Ooh.
But if her ghost is there, then who or what is occupying the witch's chair in Brookside Cemetery? Moving on to other headstones, I have a few stories of glowing headstones.
Ooh.
In Michigan's Harrison Cemetery, people say you can see a tombstone glowing, but once you get within 500 yards, it stops. So there's no way to tell which one it is once you go in.
Oh, that's a bummer.
In Minnesota's Oakland Cemetery, there is another grave that reportedly glows at night. This one you can tell. It's coming from a grave marked Boss. I found Boss on Find a Grave. It's actually the headstone of a family of bosses, I guess. But while most of them died of old age and natural causes, there is one baby buried there that died in infancy.
Spooky babies.
In Wisconsin's Riverside Cemetery, you'll find a lone grave separated apart from the others. The headstone marks the grave of a woman named Kate Blood. The story goes that she murdered her husband and 3 children. The act was so horrific, they placed her in a hidden away spot so that the living could forget.
Or she was like a super like gnarly introvert and was just like, even in death, I don't want to have to deal with these other people.
She bought like the 3 plots all the way
Yes.
around her, and no one's buried there. These are just mine.
This is my space.
If you visit her grave at midnight, you'll see blood oozing from the headstone. Or you might experience orbs, shadowy robed figures, or screams.
That's quite the variety.
Yeah, all of these have such a crazy mix, don't they?
You're right.
It's like you could see a UFO, orbs, reptilians, or
Bigfoot.
have a near-death experience.
The chupacabra.
Or D, all of the above. Another blood grave in Stephen Point, Wisconsin is so infamous the cemetery where it resides is known as Blood Cemetery instead of its proper name of Woodville Cemetery.
These all have such Oak Hill, Woodhaven. Like, they sound like subdivisions.
Suburb cemeteries.
Yes.
When I Googled Blood Cemetery, Wisconsin, what came up was a cemetery called Most Precious Blood Cemetery.
Whoa, it's like a baby cemetery with that name.
Right next to it was something called the Mosquito Hill Nature Center.
Oh no.
I think we need to investigate a race of mosquito people living in Wisconsin.
And they're like, they're drawing people into the sacred blood so that they can harvest it.
Yeah. That most precious blood. Bring it to us, Wisconsin.
So vampires, we don't have vampires. We've got giant mosquito.
mosquito people.
Yeah, mosquito anthropomorphic mosquitoes juicing everybody.
Calvin Blood was a Civil War veteran who people say was hanged at the graveyard, either through suicide or being killed for deserting by his comrades. People report seeing pools of blood on the grave, while others say that blood drips from the trees surrounding it.
Ooh.
People have also experienced a wide variety of car problems, something you'll also find in ghost reports. Unfortunately, as you've already noticed, Casey, when you look at the history of things, it starts to unravel a teeny tiny little bit.
Oh, no.
You would find that Calvin Blood died of gangrene at the age of 82, and the murderess, Kate Blood, it's so obvious. On her grave, it clearly shows that her husband died 42 years after she did. And there's no evidence that she ever had any children.
Oh, I feel like they all just got a bad rap because of the last name.
Yep, you got it. Even though these stories are also great, and I love it.
Yeah.
You probably have also noticed that there's some duplicates. The fact that Iowa has 2 black angel statues.
I wasn't going to say that, but,
There are plenty of glowing headstone stories.
lots of those, yeah.
And it turns out the crying statue and the devil's chair or witch's chair is a common cemetery trope as well. And in general, there's no real occult or tragic reasons for any of these markers to be cursed or haunted.
Oh, you had me so excited.
I know, see, they're all good stories, and I think it's great for Halloween as well, because if you're near any of these and you're not going to vandalize them,
Yeah.
It's just a spooky time to go out, and why not? It's participating in urban folklore.
I wonder if there's actually graves at these cemeteries that are legit haunted or contain people who did horrible things, but they don't have any stories about them, so they're just sitting there kind of like, ha ha ha, like avoiding notice.
Well, that's the thing, too. Like, do you think a grave can be haunted even if someone didn't die tragically? Like, do you think some guy who died at a heart attack at 72 could be a haunted grave? It's not a good story, but...
He's probably got other things to do. Why would you haunt your grave? Why would you not haunt like where you died or your favorite spot? You got no attachment to the grave other than the fact that's just where the meat is buried.
Well, I'm sure there's plenty of things you could say. You know, if their loved one is next to them, that's maybe where they would want to be.
That's true. That makes sense.
If they picked out their grave spot for some special reason, you know, maybe it overlooks something.
If they purchased all 3 plots around it, they want to haunt it, make sure nobody crouches in on their space. Like, nah, I bought that.
Yeah, it's now the only place they can be by themselves.
It's my quiet place.
Yeah, purchased specifically for that reason.
Kind of understand why, like, the pharaohs, the Egyptian pharaohs, right, had huge tombs full of all of their stuff, and they're like, nobody else can have it, it's mine.
So many of the stories come from graves that are just different from others as well. Ones that were separated or that were big or just had unusual monuments like those angels. Blood headstone stories are literally just because their last name was Blood. Which leads me, listeners, to the secret of immortality. The way to keep your name on tongues and people visiting your grave forever. Just do something a little weird. It doesn't even have to be crazy weird. Change your last name to Blood or God Eater. My grave's gonna say Leslie the God Eater when I die.
I want a cool statue in my likeness, but sexy.
It doesn't even have to look like that. That's the best part.
You need some kind of fountain pump in there. Every time it rains, it'll like a little mechanism will go and it will ooze blood out of the tears of the statue.
Yes. Okay, now we're talking.
And then you set up a trust so that someone will come by every couple of years and make sure it's still working.
Yeah. And then if they tell the secret, someone will kill them for you.
Then I have to have someone that will kill that person for killing another person.
Yep.
That's some KGB complication. I can't be. I know what would happen though. So kind of an aside, I have a funny story.
Yeah.
When I worked at a really store in the mall years ago, they had a little section resin fantasy statues. And one of them was this wall-mounted fountain, quote unquote, and you would put in like this red coloring with this water, and it would be like this vampire woman, and like blood would come out of her eyes or mouth or something stupid like that, right?
Rad.
And I remember going back because like these 2 like adolescent boys had walked in, and I'm like, all right, they're up to something. So I go over there. One of the kids had like taken all of the water, the colored water, and put it like all over his face while the other one just stood there and watched. He's like painting himself and like,
why?
Yeah, I don't know why he was doing it. I looked at him and I said, you know that's toxic, right? And they left the store, and so I got what I wanted out of it, but there's just like red puddles all over this place because he had been splashing in it.
What?
I don't know. So if we did have a cool statue with blood dripping out of it, there'd be a bunch of adolescent kids like drinking it.
So we'd also have to set up a fence.
I mean, in that case, we should just curse everything so that way nobody can actually handle it. They can just like look with your eyes but not with your hands.
Yeah, at this point we should just come back for real as ghosts.
Yeah.
There was one article I wanted to end on with urban legends because this came up before in our Spook-like episode. How do these same stories come up all over the country and North America? The witch's chair, the railway man searching for his head. There was a professor at the University of Nebraska who teaches folklore and said that when it comes to urban folklore, specific origins are almost impossible to pin down. In general, he said, superstitions, such as those surrounding the Black Angel, emerge because people want to live in a more interesting reality. A world where magic and demons and the Angel of Death could exist. I feel very attacked.
I mean, yeah, I'm like, I guess I played World of Warcraft, like,
Once they develop, the legends are shared. They change with each retelling. Parents share them with children. The children journey to the places mentioned in the tales, and the cycle continues.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's how it just travels around, because people take those same stories, and if they see another Black Angel, they're going to be like, oh,
yeah,
do you know she comes alive
Let
at
me
night?
tell you the story about the one I saw. Well, it reminds me of kids' jokes, and I don't know, how do you describe like kid culture where, you know, bubblegum in a dish? Like, we all knew it. Where did it come from? And it's just apparently spread everywhere.
I know. I do wonder how stuff like that passes. Who taught us how to do that, you know, that kind of stuff?
Right?
Weird.
It was just like older siblings passing it to younger siblings. Someone moves, they go to a new friend group, it spreads that way. But yeah, it's just like kids intuitively learn how to play all these games and tell all these stories. I bet it's like the same.
Cultural osmosis. Well, if people who are listening to this don't live in the Midwest, or I guess even if you do, if you have something like this, if you have a witch's chair or you have a Black Angel or whatever in your town, I would love to know, because It's interesting how this stuff is just the same everywhere with
The details slightly different, but the spooky graveyard statue that does blank at midnight, fairly common.
yeah, weirdly common. It's weird that it even
Yeah.
happened twice.
Coincidence? I don't know. I mean, when it happens more than once, I feel like that's when you know it's real.
I'm starting to wonder. So happy Halloween, everyone. Cue all the Halloween sound effects.
Ooh, so spooky! Ah! A funny picture today that was Minnesota Halloween costumes, and it was, you know, sexy nurse, sexy bumblebee, but it was everyone just wearing a jacket with like the colored tights on underneath. So people had Photoshop jackets on all of the costumes.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Do you have a favorite Halloween memory from being a kid, or like a favorite costume?
From being a little kid, probably just the fact that, so my sister, I have an older sister, and we would have 2 costumes that we would wear, and we would rotate them every year. So there was a mouse costume and a bee costume. I think we always wanted to be the bee. That was probably up through, I don't know, when we were kids though. At least we got other costumes later. How about you?
Well, Halloween, I was supposed to be a mouse. It was 91 with a huge blizzard that year.
Yes.
And it was so cold that you couldn't see my costume anymore. So my parents, instead, because I had to be bundled up, I had a gray jacket. So they bought me a little elephant snout. So I had the big
cute.
ears. So I was a little elephant.
Cute.
Do you remember? I really want to tell this story. God, how old? We were 18 or 19.
I don't know if I know what story is coming.
Okay, so I remember this story. We were pirates that year.
Oh, okay.
And we went trick-or-treating, and we were solidly adults, young adults, and we went to like the party full of college students that were our age or younger, like drinking, and we ring the doorbell and we're like, trick-or-treat.
When you were a kid, there used to be a lot of excitement about Halloween night, and it felt very like, ooh, anything could happen. It's Halloween.
Yeah.
But when you're older, it's kind of like, gotta work tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot less magical.
Yeah, that's how I feel like that one of the great travesties, and I'm being a little sarcastic, 2020, is that we had Halloween on a Saturday and it was robbed. It was stolen from us.
It's a full moon, too.
I know! It's so perfect. I still went out and bought the full-size candy. What's your favorite Halloween food? What's your favorite Halloween? Or like, what's your favorite Halloween treat?
Probably the pumpkin donuts that they make at the grocery store here.
Those are good. When you open up your treat bag, what is your favorite treat to find?
I would always want the Snickers, and I would trade people for those. Yeah.
Yeah.
I never wanted the Three Musketeers.
No, me either. I was always
How about
excited
you?
about the peanut butter cups.
Oh, yeah, those are second.
Or when people had like, I remember as a kid growing up, my neighbors had like, they would give you full Coke cans.
Oh, yeah. I would go out and trick-or-treat at your
Yeah.
neighborhood because all the rich people were over there.
All the wealthy retirees.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were a couple people who like really went like out. That was my favorite part about Halloween, is getting to see inside everybody's house.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's so true.
Yeah. So you could creep and be like,
What's the situation back there? Wall-to-wall carpeting, it looks like.
Yeah. Oh, God. I remember we went out one year when my mom told me I was too old to go trick-or-treating, so I spent the night at your house, and we ended up going trick-or-treating anyway. And then my mom went out and trick-or-treating, and she was like, I told you not to. And I'm like...
Did she? How'd you find out?
I think I spilled the beans. I think we were in the car, and I was joking about how much fun it was, and she like looked at me in the rearview mirror, and I was like, oh. She wasn't mad though. I think she like knew. I mean, it's like I could have been doing so much worse things. I was just getting free candy, like.
Right. Yeah. Well, happy Halloween, everyone.
Happy Halloween! Bye!
Stood holding a small bowl overflowing. I feel like I read that really Minnesotan. Okay, I'm gonna try it again. Too many boats and bowl words.
And bows.
Bowl. Ghost boats.